Isn't it funny? The moment you stop chasing him, stop calling, stop caring suddenly, he's blowing up your phone like you're the only woman on earth. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Him coming back doesn't always mean he's changed. And if you don't understand the real reason he's here, you could be walking right back into the same heartbreak you just healed from. Let me break it down for you. You ever notice how the moment you stop calling him, stop texting him, stop checking up on him, suddenly your phone starts lighting up like a Christmas tree? Ain't it funny how that works? For weeks, maybe months, he acted like you didn't exist. But the second you go quiet, here he comes, talking about, "Hey stranger, how you been?" Let me tell you something, that ain't magic. That's human nature. See, when you're always there, always available, he gets used to it. He thinks you're just part of the scenery, like the couch in his living room, comfortable, familiar, and completely taken for granted. But when you disappear, oh, now you're not the couch anymore. You're the missing piece. Men are wired a little funny when it comes to attention. If you're always giving it, they start thinking it's free. But when you pull it back, that's when they realize, hold up, I might have just lost something valuable. And don't get it twisted. Sometimes he ain't coming back because he truly changed. Sometimes he's just bored, lonely, or curious if the door's still open. That's why you can't just focus on why he came back. You gotta ask yourself, why would I take him back? Because here's the truth, your silence speaks louder than your words. It tells him you're not desperate, you're not waiting, and your life didn't hit pause just because he walked away. And nothing makes a man more curious than a woman who don't need him to feel complete. So yeah, he might come back. But when he does, remember this, you've already shown him you can live without him. The question is, does he add to your life or just take from it? Because sometimes the best response to him coming back is letting him find that door still locked. When you're always available, he takes you for granted. When you disappear, you become valuable. That's the truth a lot of people don't want to hear, but it's the way human behavior works, especially in relationships. Think about it. If every time he calls, you pick up on the first ring, every time he texts, you reply in seconds, every time he wants to see you, you drop what you're doing, you're teaching him something without even realizing it. You're showing him that your time, your attention, your energy, it's always his for the taking. And when something is always there, people start to believe it will always be there, no matter how they act. That's when the appreciation starts to fade. He doesn't notice the effort you're making because he's gotten used to the idea that you'll always be there to make it. It's like having running water in the house. You don't think about how precious it is until one day you turn the tap and nothing comes out. That's when it hits you how much you depended on it. People are the same way. When you step back, when you stop being the first one to reach out, when you let there be silence instead of chasing, something starts to shift. Suddenly he notices the empty space you used to fill. He starts wondering what you're doing, who you're with, why you're not talking to him like before. That curiosity eats at him because now, for the first time, there's a mystery. You're not an open book anymore. You're a locked journal he no longer has the key to. And here's where the value rises. Scarcity creates worth. If something is rare, people treat it differently. If he used to see you whenever he wanted, but now you're nowhere to be found, he feels that loss. He might not have said it before, but now he's thinking about it. That's when the phone calls start, the texts come in, the, "Hey, just checking on you." Messages that didn't exist when you were always around. It's not that you changed who you are. It's that you changed the access he had to you. That's a powerful thing because access is a privilege, not a right. When you make yourself constantly accessible, you teach him that he doesn't have to earn your time or respect. It's just there by default. But the second you pull back, you shift the balance. You remind him that your life doesn't revolve around him, that your world keeps spinning whether he's in it or not. That reminder is what sparks a reaction. This doesn't mean you're playing games or being manipulative. It's about respecting yourself enough to not be someone's emotional doormat. It's about knowing that your value isn't determined by how much of yourself you can give, but by how wisely you choose to give it. When you're not always available, he realizes your time is something he has to work for again. He realizes your attention isn't guaranteed. And suddenly, what he once overlooked now feels like a privilege he wants back. That's the power of pulling away. It forces someone to see what they had before they lose it completely. It's human nature to chase what's slipping away, but it's also your nature to decide if it's even worth being caught again. Men get curious about what they can't have, especially when your silence speaks louder than your words. There's something about not having access to a person that flips a switch in the human mind. And for men, that curiosity can grow fast when a woman who was once present suddenly goes quiet. When you're always sharing, always updating, always responding, there's no mystery. He knows where you are, what you're doing, how you're feeling, and that knowledge becomes ordinary. But the moment you step back, stop giving details, and stop feeding the conversation, his mind starts filling in the blanks on its own. He starts to wonder why you're not responding like before, why you're not around, why you're not making the effort you used to make. That wondering turns into curiosity, and curiosity turns into action. Silence is powerful because it leaves space for the imagination to run wild. When you're not explaining yourself, you're not defending yourself, you're not asking for anything, he's left with nothing but questions. Questions like, is she mad at me? Did she move on? Is she seeing someone else? Is she happier without me? And those questions don't just sit there quietly. They start to bother him. They pick at his ego because most men like to believe they are still important to someone even when they aren't around. Your silence threatens that belief. It tells him without saying a word that you have boundaries, that you won't chase, and that you're perfectly capable of moving forward without keeping him updated. That's why he might check your social media more, ask mutual friends about you, or even pop up in your messages with something casual just to test the waters. He's looking for a reaction because your lack of one has made him wonder where he stands. And the irony is, when you were giving him constant attention, he might not have cared to check in, but when you stopped, suddenly he's invested in finding out what's going on. That's the pull of what you can't have. It feels more valuable because it's out of reach. Silence also forces him to remember what it was like when you were in his life. He starts replaying moments in his head, thinking about how you used to respond quickly, how you laughed at his jokes, how you made time for him even when you were busy. Those memories start to feel more precious because now they're not being replaced by new ones. There's a gap where your presence used to be, and he feels it. It's not about whether he deserves to come back. It's about the fact that human nature hates losing access to something that once felt certain. Men, like anyone else, respond differently when they have to earn their way back in. When your silence takes away that easy access, it sends the message that you are not a given. You are not just sitting there waiting for him to decide you're worth it again. That message shakes him a little because deep down, he knows that silence isn't empty. It's full of meaning. It says you're strong enough to let go, you're disciplined enough to keep your distance, and you're wise enough to protect your peace. That's what makes him curious, and that curiosity is often what pushes him to come back and see if he can still have what he no longer does. Sometimes he comes back out of boredom or loneliness, not because he's changed. That's a hard pill to swallow, because when someone returns after being gone, it's easy to believe it means they've realized your worth, done some soul searching, and are ready to be the partner you always needed them to be. But in reality, people often come back simply because the space they left behind starts to feel too empty for them. Maybe things didn't work out with someone else. Maybe their friends are busy. Maybe life just got quiet and they started thinking about the comfort they once had with you. That's not change, that's just convenience. It's them looking for a way to fill their time to get rid of that lonely feeling, and you're the person who feels safe and familiar enough to call. The problem is that loneliness can make someone act like they care more than they really do. They might say all the right things, send sweet messages, even talk about how much they miss you. But those words are not always backed by a real shift in who they are or how they treat you. They're driven by the need to feel connected again, not necessarily by the desire to give you the relationship you deserve. That's why it's so important to look past the surface and pay attention to whether their actions match their words over time. Anybody can act like they've changed for a week or two, but real change shows up in consistency. Boredom is another reason they might come back. Life without you might feel less exciting, less entertaining, less engaging. Maybe they got used to your energy, your humor, your support, and when that's gone, everything feels dull. So they reach out, not because they're ready to commit or grow, but because they want that spark you gave them back in their life. They're not thinking about your needs or your happiness. They're thinking about how you make them feel and how you can fix the void they're feeling at the moment. That's why when the boredom passes, they sometimes disappear again, leaving you wondering what happened. It's also worth remembering that some people come back because they want to check if they still have access to you. It feeds their ego to know that even after time apart, you'll still respond, still let them in, still give them a piece of your attention. That's not love. That's validation. And when someone's coming back for validation, they're not thinking about building a healthy relationship. They're thinking about making themselves feel wanted again. Understanding these motives is key because it helps you protect yourself emotionally. If you assume their return automatically means they've grown, you risk opening the door too wide, too fast. But if you take a step back and watch closely, you can see whether their presence is about truly valuing you or simply filling a temporary gap in their life. People can miss the comfort of you without missing the responsibility of treating you right. They can want the connection without wanting the commitment. And when someone comes back for reasons like boredom or loneliness, it usually means they're focused on what you can give them, not on what they can give to you. That's why it's so important to recognize the difference before you decide how to respond. Your life moving forward without him is the biggest wake-up call he'll ever get. There's something about realizing that someone you thought would always be there has kept going without you that can shake a person to their core. When he walks away or takes you for granted, part of him might assume you'll stay in the same place, waiting, holding on, keeping the space open for him to return whenever he feels like it. But when he sees that you've kept living, kept growing, kept finding joy without his presence, it hits differently. It forces him to confront the fact that he's not as central to your life as he thought he was. When you keep moving forward, you're sending a silent message that says you value yourself enough to not put your life on pause for anyone. That's powerful because it shows strength, independence, and self-respect in a way words never could. He might see you out enjoying yourself, achieving goals, meeting new people, and suddenly he realizes that the world didn't stop spinning when he left. That realization can make him question the choices he made because now he's not looking at someone stuck in heartbreak. He's looking at someone who's thriving without him. It's not about making him jealous or trying to prove a point. It's about living your life fully because you refuse to let someone else's absence determine your happiness. And ironically, that's exactly what makes him notice you again. People tend to underestimate what they have until they see it continuing without them. It's like when you leave a job thinking you'll be missed, only to realize the company kept running just fine without you. It's humbling. For him, seeing you grow without his influence is a reminder that you're complete on your own. Moving forward can also shift the balance of power in his mind. Before, he might have felt like he could take his time making decisions about you, thinking you'd always be available. But when he sees that you're not stuck, that you're making moves, he realizes that opportunity might not be there forever. That sense of urgency can wake him up faster than any conversation could. It's one thing to think you have all the time in the world. It's another to see that time slipping away because the person you thought would always be there is no longer within reach. This wake-up call also challenges his ego. If he believed he was the reason for your happiness, seeing you happy without him can be a shock. it makes him rethink his place in your life, because clearly you have found a way to build joy and stability without relying on him. That can trigger feelings of regret, curiosity, and even a desire to come back just to feel relevant again. But regardless of his reaction, your focus is on your own growth. The beauty of moving forward is that it puts the control back in your hands. You're not waiting to be chosen, you're choosing yourself every day, and that's something he can't ignore. Whether he admits it or not, watching you move on without looking back forces him to see what kind of person you truly are. Someone who's capable, strong, and unwilling to settle for less than what you deserve. No contact shows confidence and independence, two things men respect but can't fake. When you choose to step back and cut off communication, it's not just about creating space, it's about sending a message that you value yourself enough to not chase someone who isn't matching your energy. Confidence isn't something you talk about, it's something you show in your actions, and nothing shows it more clearly than refusing to beg for someone's attention. Independence is the same way. It's not about claiming you can live without someone. It's about actually living without them and proving through your choices that you're okay on your own. When a man sees that you're not calling, not texting, not checking up on him, it challenges the way he sees you. If he thought you were going to hold on, no matter what, your silence breaks that image. It makes him realize that you're not dependent on him for happiness, and that realization sparks respect, because deep down, most men admire a woman who can stand on her own 2 feet. Even if he doesn't admit it out loud, there's a part of him that takes notice when you carry yourself like someone who knows her worth. No contact is powerful because it's an action, not a speech. You don't have to explain why you're doing it. You don't have to justify it. You just do it. That's where the strength lies. Anyone can talk about boundaries, but following through on them is what separates words from reality. It shows you're not afraid to let go of something that's not serving you, even if it's uncomfortable. That kind of discipline stands out because it's rare. Independence also changes the way he approaches you. If he sees you as someone who doesn't need constant reassurance from him, he knows he has to bring more than just empty words to get your attention. He can't rely on you being there by default, so if he wants to be part of your life again, he has to put in real effort. That shift in dynamic can be unsettling for him, especially if he's used to you doing the chasing. It forces him to see you as a whole person with your own life, not just someone orbiting around his. Confidence is attractive because it communicates security. When you're secure in yourself, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, and that makes people want to be around you. No contact sends the message that your world doesn't fall apart without him, that you have your own goals, friends, and passions that keep you moving forward. That's the kind of energy that draws people in without you having to chase them. And here's the thing, men know when confidence is real and when it's being faked. You can't pretend to be independent while secretly waiting by the phone, hoping for a text. The strength in no contact comes from genuinely accepting that life goes on whether he comes back or not. That authenticity is what makes it so powerful. He sees that you're not bluffing, you're not trying to manipulate him into returning. You're simply living your life. That's when respect kicks in, because it's clear you're not afraid of losing him. You've shown that you can stand alone, and in a world where so many people settle for less just to avoid being alone. That's something a man can't help but notice. The real question isn't why he came back. It's whether he deserves to stay. When someone reappears after being absent, the first instinct is often to wonder what made them return. Was it regret? Was it loneliness? Was it love? But focusing too much on that question can distract you from the one that really matters, which is whether his return is actually good for you. Just because he came back doesn't mean he's changed, and it doesn't mean you should automatically open the door. People can show up in your life again for reasons that have nothing to do with wanting to give you the relationship you deserve. Sometimes it's convenience, sometimes it's boredom, sometimes it's ego. That's why the decision should never be based on how much you missed him, but on whether his presence now would make your life better or worse. When you've done the work to heal and move forward, you have to be careful about letting someone disrupt that progress. If his return doesn't come with consistent effort, honesty, and accountability, then it's not a real change. It's just a temporary visit. You have to look at his actions, not just his words, because words can be sweet enough to make you forget why you stopped talking in the first place. If you listen closely, his behavior will tell you if he's truly grown or if he's just looking to pick up where things left off without doing the hard work. It's easy to romanticize the idea of someone coming back. Movies, songs, and stories make it seem like a grand gesture, a sign that love always finds its way home. But real life is more complicated than that. Someone can miss you without being ready to treat you right. They can feel drawn to you without having the maturity to stay. That's why you have to shift the perspective from, he's back, to does he belong here now? That question changes everything because it puts the power back in your hands instead of in his. If you're going to let someone stay in your life, it should be because they add value, not because you're afraid of losing them again. It should be because they've shown through time and effort that they've learned from the past, not because they've said the right thing once. Your time, your peace, and your energy are too valuable to be given away to someone who only knows your worth when they're at risk of losing you. When you make the decision based on whether he deserves to stay, you naturally start to protect yourself from falling into old patterns. You remember the reasons you set boundaries in the first place, and you hold him accountable to those standards. That's not about being cold or unforgiving. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less than what you've learned you need. A person's return should never blind you to the truth of how they made you feel before. If the pain outweighed the joy, if the inconsistency outweighed the commitment, then the fact that they came back isn't enough. The right to stay has to be earned, and it has to be earned through actions that prove the past won't repeat itself. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how much he wants to be in your life. It's about whether being in your life will truly benefit you now and in the future.